I get it. Albaka. Yo, not transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Nsila ID soto.
Sorry. I get it.
Bijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya. Bara ki janna nun kunu bara tariya.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong labe.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw jannom number 1 ti nyonta andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi man domorol dir fana be teat Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je
wo moy o diat
apelenta
baraka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina
yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba
yalo ndel ciosano lo
baraka.
Of owning your dream homes, EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
When we touch down, better broke down.
Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
So she became mine and see the
all right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluo?
Baluo? What is Baluo?
Baluo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria, or Mali. Baluo, better than sending money.
and welcome to the brunch on Kerr Fatou. I'm Lamin Cham, welcoming you to our weekly current affairs program. Today, January the 23rd, 2021. Happy New Year once again, those who weren't able to join us since the beginning of the new year. Now, this week, of course, as it is already well known and discussed in many media in the Gambia, we're going to talk about 4 years after the coalition government comes to power. What has been the successes and failures? We will have the perspective of people from different persuasions or different convictions about those 4 years. And with me in the studio, without wasting time, I start from the far right, journalist Mustapha Darboe, the deputy spokesman for the opposition and former ruling EP3, Dodou is with us. And we welcome our special guest, Ahmad Gitteh, well-known young political activist, now communication engineer, who has spent the past years in Canada studying and I hope now working to be an IT expert. Mr. Gitteh is in the country on holiday. Mr. Gitteh, welcome to the brunch, I guess, for the first time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good. Now, first though, we begin with another investigative report conducted by Malagan.com. That is the internet platform which have been investigating, or which have been doing some investigations. And the biggest one, of course, well, the most prominent one was when we had the fisheries saga. This time, the medium have concentrated on highlighting how dubious businessmen have been fortunate, if you like, getting access to State House and how suspicious their business activities have been. I'll go straight to Malagan's editor-in-chief, Mustapha Darboe, to tell us exactly. So, Mustapha, I start by saying that these mere allegations so far, we can treat them as allegations. You have reported that there are a certain group of businessmen who came here with some sort of inducements because they already have a track record of dubious business around our region, and they've been able to have access to State House, and how the Gambia should be wary of such businessmen. So tell us through exactly what was the core theme in this investigative piece.
There are a number of issues in the story that we have written. Just to make some correction, I'm the news editor.
The news editor. So you don't have a sort of like an editor-in-chief?
Well, the editor-in-chief is an unseen hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't do the editing. I just do the work and then submit it for editing. The story it's not just about investors. We sought out to expose a number of institutional lapses that occurs in this country and that are contributing to inefficiency of our public administration. And we started the story when the diplomatic passports leaked online, and a number of people were seen to have had our diplomatic passports, I think 1,175.
Yes.
So we came to learn through several colleagues that in fact it's more than that, that there were a number of passports that were also allegedly unaccounted for at the foreign ministry, which is the audit language for missing. And that there were a number of service passports also that are unaccounted for, which is missing. And then the service passports was about 3,400 and something. That's too much. And the diplomatic passport was close to 2,000. And these were reportedly being printed for cash. So we thought that it's an important national security issue that we look into this matter, and that's how we started working on it. So with regards to the investors, I think it's clear in the report. There is no doubt that they were at State House. There is no doubt that they had met the president. I published a picture of Reni and the president.
But what makes their visit dubious or suspicious?
Well, the reality is that these are people with questionable character, people who are accused of fraudulent activities elsewhere. These are people who are subject of dozens of media investigations in Germany, in Austria, in a number of places in Europe, and their activities are not hidden, even in Bissau here. I know the journalist who had worked on their case in Bissau, who is currently in Portugal. And then I have journalists in Bissau that I speak to. I have a couple of friends
so
there.
According to you, how do they get access to the presidency? Is it through some intermediaries who probably didn't know their background, or how do they find their way in there?
Well, the details around how the initial meeting between Henry and these people came about is a bit sketchy.
Henry being the political advisor to the president.
Yes, but then Minister of Youth. So, but he did meet them, and he did admit to meeting them.
Yes.
Of course, he claims that he was comfortable around Rennie because Rennie speaks German and he also speaks German.
Okay.
And that is how their relationship came about, and that these people also had expressed interest to visit the presidency, and that Rennie had expressed interest in bringing some investors in the country. But just to say that Rennie had registered a number of companies in the country even before that meeting, because this was in 2019, when everything with these guys were having diplomatic passport of Bissau, and they were giving trouble to Munich police in Germany. Because they were being arrested occasionally, and each time they are being arrested for traffic violations and all the other minor offenses, they pull out a diplomatic passport. And that's how the Munich police and the foreign ministry in Germany came to be frustrated about their activities. In fact, if you had read the Spiegel story about their activities, which I hyperlinked in the story, you would realize that there are a number of issues that are more complex, because I wrote a 9,000 plus word story. It's the editor who thought that it was too much. Nobody has the time to read all that, so he had to cut it to a little under 5,000. So, but it was clear from the onset that these people are not business people, and it was, and I would go ahead to stretch. I said stretch because I have no evidence of that. That there has to be a motive for taking them to State House other than what we know.
Other than going perhaps to look for possibilities of business ventures.
Because this is a guy who police have verified and had reported in their investigation report that he had participated in the illegal printing of 6 of our diplomatic passports. No one charged him. No one. They only questioned him at the police and let him go, and he lived happily ever after in the country. No one touched him. So there has to be a reason for that.
So far, since the publication came out, like you always, after all these works, it is interesting that you always said you think maybe nothing will come out of it. How about what has been what has been the feedback? Did you ruffle feathers in the?
So for me, I am a private citizen, and Gambia is a joint investment. It's not owned by opposition or political parties or people. It's owned by us. It's a joint. Gambia is a company where we all have a dalasi. My job is to protect my investment, and that's why I do what I do. Now, the issue here is, and these are some of the issues we have highlighted. That is one. Investors have no business going to State House. Investors should go to GAIPA. If they have an unsolicited proposal, go to Public-Private Partnership Department. That's one. Two, Gambia government should be honest enough and face diplomats and tell them the truth. Because when the issue of diplomatic passports came up, the Gambia government had held a meeting with diplomats, foreign missions in the country, and promised them thorough investigation. Now, there was no thorough investigation.
But there's a trial, ongoing trial.
Yes, but that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you someone who should have been charged, not charged. That tells you about the investigation and the subsequent issues. I don't want to go into the trial because it's before the court. Now, and the second one is that there was no, in my opinion, no thorough investigation. And three, Gambia government is in no position to tell you how many of our diplomatic passports is out there.
How do you come by the figure 1,700 something?
Because if you have 1,500, that's a normal database at the foreign ministry. Foreign ministry's database 1,175. But if you have a diplomatic passport of close to 2,000 that has been illegally printed or reportedly missing, then you know that probably there is a slight chance that that diplomatic passport, that even auditors in their audit report, Auditor General's office, state might have been printed for cash. And we have evidence that indeed some were printed for cash. Now, if you have that, then you were talking about 1,500 diplomatic passports plus close to 2,000 diplomatic passports. You're talking about 3,000 diplomatic passports in circulation, over half of which is illegally printed.
So is it not curious that it's only two people, the former president, former driver of the president, and one other person whose trial we are aware of? The rest of the people, it was 19 they said were
if I say,
indicted, but
if I say a thing about,
only two are currently standing trial.
Well, if I say a thing about that, I might be charged for contempt.
Well,
but the thing
then
is,
you can say the number word.
Yeah. I mean, it does not make sense to me. But here is the problem. Now, the problem is that there are senior officers in government. Make no mistake, there are people in government with integrity who wants to do the right things. There are people in government who are suggested to the foreign ministry and foreign ministry that this is a pandemic time. Let's cancel all our diplomatic passports, issue a statement and say, look, these diplomatic passports that are issued
from 2017
are cancelled. And any other diplomatic passport issued within this period from the Gambia government is cancelled. That will disable the ones who are illegally holding our passport.
Yeah, that would really.
But they refuse to do it.
I see.
Because they has to have an interest in it.
So you're suggesting that if they're really serious about the scale of the alleged scam, they ought to make an announcement cancelling everything and investigate it properly.
And this is a concern for even our partners, because I spoke to the American embassy, even though that did not came out in the story, because the editor does not feel that should be in the story. But they did express concern that they do not want Gambia's diplomatic passport to fall in the wrong hands. So everybody is aware of the potent national security issue at hand, and that's the reason why we also. But with regards to the investors, I think it's very clear. I mean, if someone comes to you and say, I want to, how can someone like the people I have had encounter with come to you and say, we want to spend $406 billion in this country? Who wants to do that in a country like here? When would you recover that? Or 200 million euros within a space of, let's say, 3 months. When do you recover that? And if you are going to invest, you're going to invest in renewable energy. Think about it. Renewable energy. You are not going to export this. You are going to invest it in renewable energy to help the Gambia. To invest in renewable energy in the Gambia, 200 million euros. When do you expect to recover?
So you mean even from their very pronouncements, you can...
From the surface, it looks ridiculous for anybody with any form of education to even entertain such an idea. And that's why the Justice Ministry initially said, look, this is total rubbish. We can't have anything to do with this. Yeah, you mentioned an article,
Justice and Agriculture, is it? Department of
Justice. Agriculture actually
they stood their ground and
said, look, this doesn't make sense.
You mentioned gifts, as little as it was. Some of them allegedly came with some gifts.
Yes, I of course mentioned that I have no evidence of it, but I spoke to close to a dozen people who said the same thing, and in fact this came up in the police. And but when the issue of the president receiving gift came, the police reportedly told them that this cannot be in the report. But unfortunately for them, I can write it.
You can write it. Okay, very quickly. Mr. Jah, what do you mean? What do you think about this Mulligan piece? I mean, recently, I think even the president was worried himself. He accused the opposition of associating themselves with dubious businessmen to whom they allegedly wanted to sell the country. So if a piece like this really come out suggesting that in fact there are people who even had access to the presidency with dubious characters, one tends to ask, wow, so how rampant is it? So maybe the president is right in one way, or they didn't talk about the others.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cham, for having me on the brunch once again. And I am sending my greetings to the viewers and those who keenly follow this program, and of course to definitely commend my brother, Mustapha Darboe. He's one amongst many in the field of journalism that I admire. since the issue of the fisheries also came, I think a lot of people in this country happens to salute him. For a very long time, I have been crying about investigative journalism in this country, and he seems to be one of those that even people follow keenly and revealing a lot of other issues. So definitely kudos to him, and also happy to share the same platform with my brother, Ahmad Gitteh, I think for the first time. He's very popular on Facebook and social media, I would say. And I also definitely admire him. He stands by his beliefs and what he does.
Popularity are different. He might be famous, but not quite popular to some people.
He will surprise you. Anyway. He will surprise you. Okay. And one thing I admire about him, what he believes in that. He keeps pushing, and no matter criticism, etc., he stands his ground. So I definitely give him credit for that. Exactly. Now, coming back to what Mustapha is trying to highlight here, it's a learning point for me. That some of this information, he has to dig sources and bring it on board. It will help to fight corruption. It will help to, at least what we've been crying in the past, what people have been complaining, it is like there's a different perspective now. What is important for me is how do we correct the wrongs? How do we rewrite what we believe and feel, as Gambians shouldn't be what should derail us in moving ahead. So definitely it is important, but on the other hand, government need to stand firm. You cannot establish a government and want to please everybody. People will take advantage of that, and you'll open a lot of roots underneath that would definitely come to haunt you in the future for you not taking these stands as something that will really create chaos in a country. I've been saying it, if people say Barrow has no problem, then I say then the country has a problem. Because like people involved in corruption, in fraudulent activity, you must have a problem with that. Right. Otherwise you're creating a safe haven for them. They're going to create whatever they do to their advantage, to your disadvantage. And the people look up to you when it comes to leadership. As hard as it could be, serving the interests of the people, at times you just need to wear blinkers on, don't recognize who is who, but follow what is right. Whoever, come in crossroads with the law, let the law surpass or exit. And this will help us to move a long way. So definitely, I'll give credit to Malagan, I'll give credit to Mustapha for the job they're doing.
Malagan. So, Mr. Gitteh, welcome once again for your first time to the brunch and to our viewers all over the world. First, I want your perspective on this Malagan report, and then straight back we will come to the main topic, starting with you again. What do you make of this Malagan report, which highlighted that there are institutional failures? People, instead of following the laid down rules and policies of government laid down for investment, just find some people whom they will, pay or perhaps promise to get them access to State House, where they will come with, bogus promises to investment, etc. What do you make of it?
Thank you very much. Once again, big brother Lamin Cham, Mustapha, and my great friend, Dodou. I am very happy to be here. Now, regarding the Malagan investigation, I've followed Mustapha for a very long time, and like most people, I have a lot of things that I agree with and a lot that I have reservations about.
Exactly.
This is a government in transition. We would all agree that for 22 years there has been a lot of breakdown in institutional procedures.
Exactly.
And of course, going to State House as an investor was very common on the Jami. I reported extensively. I was a correspondent at State House. Now, 2016, a lot of these politicians that came in, Barrow and a lot of others in very prominent positions, were not actually experienced people in governance. And so you have an institution that was not doing well, or let's say institutions that we all believe have trouble in functioning. And I'm sure this visit that the gentleman investigated was somewhere in 2017, 2018. These were in the early days of the transition. So there were things that happened in those days that wouldn't have happened today. Today, I am aware of a case that an investor wanted to meet the president and they wouldn't allow him to. Like this was like, let's say, 3 or 4 months ago. The government refused to meet the investor and they asked them to either go to finance or to go to the relevant ministry that they want. So the investigation was fantastic. And a lot of things, as he said, couldn't be independently verified. I mean, like the passports that were unaccounted for. You know, he said some could be printed and in circulation, but as well, they could be lying dormant somewhere. Perhaps the individual that has them is scared of perhaps, you know, possible repercussions and they're not using them. But overall, like he said, government is like a company where all of us have invested. So Mustapha's job is equally part of running a country. And you know, again, when those investors came to the president in 2017, they came with a state minister who was also a prominent member of the coalition. If a minister wants a president, a partner that he fought with for a long time and came to government together to bring in someone, I mean, refusing that is not easy. But again, these investors did not only meet the president. There were a lot of investors that met other politicians, ministers of foreign affairs from 2017, Minister of Finance, former ministers of finance, former ministers of foreign affairs, and former vice president. So you know, institutionally, again, I'll go back to the point that for 22 years, things were not as they were supposed to be. So 1 year into office, you don't fix all those problems. But as we move on, we are evolving, and with the help of investigative journalists like him, I mean, in the case of Banja, Ministry of Fisheries, when the matter came out, I mean, the instruction was given, you know, that let him be sent for compulsory administrative leave. So government is everyone's partner, if you're genuine. So I commend him for the job well done. The rest, there are a little bit of, you know, I agree with this. I do not agree with this. But you know, overall, it's a good thing that we have people like him in this new dispensation.
All right. Thanks, Maligan, once again. So we turn to the major topic on the table today, which is 4 years ago, coalition government came into being, led by Adam Barrow, defeated Yahya Jammeh in the elections on December 1st, 2016. 4 years on, we want to look at the, well, successes and failures according to, depending on who you talk to. And we will have perspectives from Mr. Gitteh, Mr. Ja, and Mustapha as a journalist, because there's a lot of components also about media and press freedom over the last 3 or 4 years. And Mustapha had served as vice president, actually, until recently, that is, of the Gambia Press Union. So your perspective on that will be interesting. But let's start with Mr. Gitteh. Okay. Of late, I must tell the viewers that you really have made a name as, let's say, what I would say, a very strong sympathizer of the National Patriotic Party. But you told me before we come online, in fact, you are a founding member, so to speak. So it will be nice to hear from you. What do you make of 4 years of President Barrow?
A lot. So Barrow came to power again. A coalition government came to power to remove former President Yahya Jammeh. And the country, the situation that he found the government in was very bad. The human rights, the financial, you know, and security, and a lot of issues even with foreign policy and many other things. So when they came in, they have found a lot of broken systems. The worst of all of them is social cohesion. we had a very serious problem between and amongst tribes and neighbors based on politics of identity. Now, in our 4 years, as you're aware from the financial sector, when Barrow came in, there was just 1 week import cover. They pushed that to about 6 months today, which was fantastic. We were removed from Commonwealth. Yeah, Jame unilaterally removed us from Commonwealth. Today we are. And Gambians are benefiting a lot from that. You have scholarships and many other benefits that we're getting. You know, former President Yahya Jammeh, I mean, had problems with a lot of foreign partners, multilateral partners. European Union, very key. And today, Gambia, in terms of foreign policy, is in a better footing.
In other words, we regain our respect.
Yes, and that's one thing. I mean, when you come to the areas of agriculture as well, there has been some issues, but like as we move on, we will talk a lot more about these things. But then for the National Development Plan, there were key, you know, promises that the government, the coalition government came with. You have the Jana Commission to, you know, investigate into the financial and economic dealings or mismanagements of the former government. They set up that commission, the reports came out and recommendations were made. Some actions were taken at the executive
But
level.
before you move there, the critics said had trouble with that because they said there was selective justice. People who were recommended not to hold office are holding influential position in the government, in the very government that did that investigation.
Well, if you take a matter to court, the court of law, at judiciary, lawyers sometimes will lose a case, sometimes lawyers will win a case. The party that is not favored in that very just and independent judgment will always cry foul. When you send me to court and I am convicted for a crime, the lawyer and family would still say they don't believe this is okay. They accept the verdict, but they do not agree with it. So the same thing will apply to anything. You know, humanity is about divergence of opinions. You can never agree on things. So people will say selective justice. I have some reservations about it, but a competent body was instituted. They investigated.
But do you want specific cases? For example, the Minister of Finance, well, it was recommended that he had been allegedly, he had, you know, he was signatory to accounts where there were questionable transactions. If that recommendation is made of a man, and now you put that man to be the holder and the key holder of your finances, doesn't that raise moral questions?
Well, now, what we need to concentrate more on is, for the past 2 years, he has been a finance minister. How many accounts is he a signatory to? How much money has he presided over the withdrawal of? That is not in the interest of the country. That's a very good question to ask. Sometimes it's a question of who is in authority. We accused Mamburenjai, Alaji Sise of being involved in withdrawals of money. They did not take part in using them.
But they withdrew.
They were instructed.
They were signatories.
Under the former president. Yes, those are true. But then today,
but then there are others who fell in the same category and they were not allowed.
So again, at the same no. So again, that is why I brought the issue of a court of law. So the executive, which sat over this matter, which is cabinet, is a competent body of government with authority vested in them by the Gambian people. Just like in the court of law, two people will kill the same way, but the judiciary will convict them to different terms of
manslaughter
prison,
and perhaps murder.
Okay. So
the Jana Commission. Yes, let's move on.
We have CRC. The Constitutional Review Commission, even though it ended up becoming a big failure on the side of the commissioners. I mean, Justice Darboe,
the government
messed up. No, I wouldn't.
Why did the government mess up?
Why would I?
Let me tell you what the critics say.
Tell me.
Shortly, after the initial draft was issued, everybody, imams, cabinet, and everybody was asked, what do they feel about it? The Christian community said, well, they want the word
secular
there. The cabinet said in a paper I saw, they said, I mean, to apply, they are not objecting to 2 terms. Fine, they accept that.
Yes.
But the dates on which you should comment, as stipulated in the draft, is discriminatory to the president.
Yes.
Whoever was there. In this case, it happened to be Barrow. They
Yes.
said that's discriminatory.
Yes.
The powers been given to, the sweeping powers given to, Parliament, such as vetting cabinet appointments, etc. They said that's getting too much out of the presidency. There are other, the cabinet didn't say that, but there are other sympathizers of cabinet who said, well, some of the draft tend to favor some people who might have been excluded from taking part in elections for office, etc., etc. That was made known by the cabinet. Now, and of course, in the lead-up, in the build-up to the presentation of the draft, we had people in the National Assembly who are known and, in fact, who have made themselves sympathizers of the government, who said they are not going to vote it in because it is discriminatory to the president. The Justice Minister, who actually is expected to defend it, didn't participate in the defending. He just sat down there, according to critics, just to look at it. So the government never had the goodwill and the interest to push it as they did with other bills. That's the critics. That's what the critics said about it.
Fantastic.
You are blaming this, yeah.
Fantastic. You brought that up. Now, first and foremost, as a statistician, you've mentioned many.
Yeah.
Many. Yeah. Now, many is relative. It is subjective in this case. Because as far as I am concerned, many people objected to this constitution, not because the president's retrospectivity is what you're talking about. Getting that term that the president started before the coming to life of this draft constitution being an issue, and that is what critics try to paint the president with. I will tell you many more, in fact, significant points, better than even the president, Adama Barrow, not even presidency. Adama Barrow, as a Gambian, as a citizen, was discriminated against. And I believe, as Islam would advise, what you love for yourself, you love for your brother. I wouldn't love that to be applied to me. In fact,
as far the presidents, they don't particularly say Adam. It just happened to be Adam. Well, that is what I'm saying. Believe that Adam was
I believe this is very.
Well, that's where the problem.
That is one of the problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, when you look at that constitution properly, personally, I've been advocating for something that was never there. Now, for dual citizens of this country.
Exactly. Yeah.
A lot of Gambians left this country, great Gambians, because they did not agree with the former president.
Yes.
They went, developed themselves, got papers outside because of opportunities. Now, this new constitution says for you to run for office of parliament, MP, or become qualified for presidency or vice presidency, you must be a Gambian and Gambian only. And we said there is a suggestion that we put forward that fell on deaf ears. Allow Gambians the opportunity, Gambians with dual citizenship, to contest. Get a provision in the constitution that when you contest for this position of president or parliamentary position, you have conditions. When you lose, when you did not or you do not win,
you go back.
Keep your citizenship.
Okay.
Continue to benefit Gambia with remittances. Okay. But the moment you are declared a winner, you have to renounce your other citizenship to be loyal to only Gambia. This was a suggestion. It was, never considered. Okay. Number two, you talk about the president's retrospectivity. The constitution has first draft and second draft, and that is why I had wanted this discussion to be only you and I, because there is so much to be said here. The constitution, in the first draft, section 92, gave conditions as to who is qualified in relation to conviction. When you are convicted, you are disqualified. Criminal convictions, you are disqualified, except if you are pardoned. The first one says, if you are pardoned based on this constitution, then you'll be allowed to run. This constitution is referring to the 2020 draft. So that put specifically Usainu Darboe of UDP at a disadvantage. UDP with the first draft refused to support it. Ousainou came out and said UDP will never support that constitution. He had an interview with Malik Jones, if you remember that.
Yes.
So when that happened, they went round again for the second, to prepare the second draft. Now in the second draft, it removed based on this constitution. So now it has given, it an open space, whether you are pardoned in relation to the 2020 draft to be enacted or the 1997, it's okay.
Input.
Yes.
That was put, it was not in the first draft.
So the second draft, section 94, because first one was section 92.
So when Ousainou said they would not agree to that.
Yeah.
And when the final one come,
they removed that there.
And they did not put in Ahmad
No,
objection.
I'm coming. Yes, let me, I'll say it myself. So these are, so a country is a group of people with different interests. That is politics, that is governance.
Exactly.
And that's why Christians want the constitution to have secular. Because to them, they want Christianity recognized. Muslims want. And there are many conflicting interests. So you have to be careful to strike a balance. Now, a major interested party like Adama Barrow, if you can go and change a part to suit Ousainou Darboe and his opposition party, why not Adama, not Adama. Adama's party.
Cabinets or cabinet's position.
Okay.
It was not quite an
so in cabinet again, you have politicians with interest, just like Darboe. You have Ahmad Ba, who is his own party leader. You had OJ, you have Henry Gomez, and all of these people. But then that is one. The other problem we have is with the judiciary. Now, in the Constitution, I wrote this section because I don't want to,
No problem.
There is a section called Section 290. No, this is about the IGP. Section 290. Let me.
I know it said the IGP should, and the office of the secretary should be independent.
There is a part in our constitution. Just give me a minute, because I wrote many of them. That are not. I just want to make sure people that I am talking to can go there. I know what it says, but I need to give
Just
you
carry
the
on.
section. But then what it says, basically is section 198, paragraph 3 of the final draft constitution. A budget for judiciary, when drafted, any time judiciary makes a budget, when it comes to parliament, the parliament will only increase that budget or keep it the way it is. So when Parliament approves a budget for Ministry of Judiciary, $100,000, next year, Parliament can only increase the budget, but it cannot go below 100,000. Now, I would like you to allow me to speak about this. This is an entrenched clause in the draft. Now, the problem that creates is huge. Let's assume this is 2019. We give a budget of 1 million to judiciary. They need vehicles for the new magistrates. They need new buildings, court buildings in Basse, in other areas. Now we give them $1 billion to build those things, part of their budget. Next year, 2021, we will not need to build a new office for judges, because we just built 5 court buildings in different regions. We just bought 10 vehicles for the judiciary. We will not need to buy them vehicles. Now you said when they come next year, we have to give them 1 billion or more. What kind of stupidity is that?
So you think that, you believe that that was deliberately put there because the judiciary or people in the justice system had influence over the
that is one thing, and we are moving. Yes, but I just want you to give me. That's one thing. Now again, now the ramification, the bigger ramification even is, we are in COVID-19, for instance. Let's say Gambia got into economic crisis, and we do not have money. But last year we gave judiciary 1 billion. This year, because of COVID-19, GRA cannot collect taxes because businesses are not working. You put an entrenched clause in the constitution for us to by force give them money. Okay. Where do we get that?
So you see that's
and for us to change that, we have to go for a referendum.
Let me take you back. Now this way
that is so stupid.
Now listen to the problem now. This is where the people who naturally are not interested in what is Darboe or Adama Barrow's political ambitions are. People who naturally don't subscribe to these two people. After all, they all come from one bunch, one club, one school of thought until recently. People who are not interested in their ambitions are interested in good laws. And now you are admitting that this constitution failed because it was reduced to Adama Barrow versus Darboe.
Yeah, and there's another one that
so
I
now
need to
who
talk
do we
about.
Blame for that?
Now,
who's to blame for that?
We blame
you blame who?
The CRC.
No.
No. Adama Barrow, look. Yes, 100%.
Now listen carefully.
100%. Now I need to.
I hope you are following the recent efforts at reviving that.
Again, I do not support that. But there's another a bigger problem.
Right, we are talking about
we
are talking about achievements. No, you are specific. We went to two specifics. That is the CRC now, the TRM. I want us to make progress.
Yes.
Yeah. Your points on the constitution are understood. That is, according to you, is not just Adama Barrow and this thing that are there. There are a lot of other things that people disagree with, and they were not input. Yes. You all understand, but you can't discount the fact that the key players, or the key things that reduce this thing to a power struggle between Adama Barrow and Darboe, that's really accounted for the killing of this very good man.
And that is why.
And who's to blame for that?
And again,
who's to blame for that?
I take this back to the Constitutional Review Committee.
Okay, all right.
Because nobody ever forced them to do what they were supposed to do. But then, if you are doing a job in a society where there is so much sensitivity and differences, you have to tread very carefully.
According to them, they have consulted widely, and you can attest.
And part of that consultation, some of us told them, remove the retrospective law from there.
You cannot also expect that they will put every of the 2 million people in the Gambia's opinion there.
But I agree. I agree. But a major issue, a major contentious issue, like the one borrowed from your own words.
Things that killed it. At the end of it, this might be a legal process, but it's a political document.
Yes.
The thing died because of political reasons.
Yes.
So, somebody, not you and maybe Alma Metal, who subscribed to Barrow and Darboe's political agenda, but me, who wanted a two-term that I don't want anybody succeeding Jammeh to serve more than 10 years. I'm disappointed.
Well,
listen. And I who want, people who are really indicted to have been involved in questionable activities, I don't want them near the National Treasury. I'm disappointed. Now listen, I'm talking to ordinary people.
Yes.
I who don't want Ahmad Gitteh, who had to go in exile, or Lamin Jam, who've been tortured, to be tortured again, because I don't want those people who did that to be anywhere near such power. I'm disappointed. And this document wants to help eradicate all that. That's the problem.
Okay, so let's...
that part is UDP and NPP to which you subscribe. That's where the problem is.
That's not necessarily...
And Mr. Barrow, who had the golden power and opportunity to make the difference, to break the deadlock,
that's not necessarily
really became a dogma in his own stance. I want to see that only his interest is served or he doesn't go.
No, so
that's
again,
this is
so I made mention of this part of the Constitution that had to do with the judiciary.
Yeah.
That is a major issue that made it.
Now
I just wanted to finish. Now there is also independence of the IGP's office.
Exactly.
That is section 290.
Yes.
Now we'll come to
What do you make of it?
I'll explain. Yeah. Now the IGP's office, according to this new constitution,
should be independent.
Should be independent, and that means
the president will not now be the sole person who can appoint.
No, that's not. Yes, but in addition to that, we all agree and we all know that it is politicians' promise that get them into office. When they come into office, they, transform their promises into policies.
Exactly.
And these policies are what are implemented. They are operationalized. You talk about provision of security. You talk about, better agri system. Now, when you have an IGP's position, according to the new constitution, the IGP's position should be independent and cannot receive an operational instruction from the line minister and the president. So the IGP will have at his discretion to investigate a crime or not. The IGP, it will have to be based on his discretion to deploy the police in a particular place or not. Now we believe that is not only stupid, but that is irresponsible. The commander-in-chief of the armed forces in this country can instruct the military on operational matters, but cannot instruct the police. Except, in fact, they said, go to section 290 in the Constitution, except on policy matters. Operational matters are policy matters. Just allow me, please. The other aspect is the Secretary General's office is the same, should be equally independent. Now, Secretary General is the head of the civil service, and this head of the civil service is the one that deals with operations of the policies that the politicians transform from their political promises. Now, when a president gets those political promises and turn them into policies, civil servants like technicians, permanent secretaries, right down, are the ones that help him in implementing those. You have a Secretary General that cannot be answerable to a president. You cannot instruct a Secretary General on your policy matters.
Very good.
You want that constitution to be passed.
Very good point.
That is a big job.
Very good point.
And you know what they did? No, wait. You know what they did? In the constitutional and consequential provision of this constitution, Schedule 4, paragraph 18, they said there is going to be a constitutional implementation commission. Now, this constitutional implementation commission will oversee the implementation of this new constitution during the transition. And that should be comprised of 5 members, chairman and 4 members. And these commissioners said in that provision, paragraph 18, that team, at least 2 of them, must come from the CRC members. Who are there to determine who I employ? To when actually in that finally, and you will come. Finally, when you move down again in that constitutional and consequential provision, they again said there is a parliamentary oversight committee for the constitution. Why do you need to create 2 committees to oversight a commission and a committee doing the same job? Why do you do that? Waste of money.
Very good points. But you see, the problem here is this constitution was supposed to pass down, was expected to be passed and to go to a second reading, where all these issues that you are talking about, the parliamentarians will have an opportunity to debate over them and then decide whether to pass. But it was never allowed to pass there because of Adam Barrow and lawyer Darboe.
I disagree.
Now let me tell you. I had people who supported this about the IGP. Today, you can have a lot of cases that the IGP wanted to investigate or to prosecute, but the Ministry of Justice, which is controlled by the government, did not want them to prosecute that. So, but there are many cases like that. Because the IGP depends on the president for his appointment, he will not investigate where the president has interest. That's one thing. The whole case, if you go to the police, I'm sure if they are honest, they will tell you cases that people have been really longing to be investigated, but because the Ministry of Justice will not give them the directive. The police bureau always talk about that. We are waiting for advice from the Attorney General's chambers. The Attorney General is controlled by the president. And the police cannot do anything without the Attorney General, which is controlled by the president. So those cases are lying down there. If the IGP was independently appointed, he will not look at the ministry, he will not look at the president. Secondly, I need to clear that arguments that the Secretary General, who was very powerful under Jammeh, let's take Jammeh time as an example. The Secretary General de facto was actually responsible for the whole civil service. He will do as the president wishes. We have seen so many people where victimized, wrongly accused by the office of the Secretary General through the instructions of the President. If the Secretary General was independent, so many people who have been victimized would not have been, because he would not have listened to the President. So these are all part of what we call institutional reforms. They are not necessarily taking power from the President. Let us not look at the President's powers or which side of the bread butters the President.
I disagree 100%. Now, I would ask, I just want to put this forward.
Time to move to.
I just want to do, before you go there. Yeah. You said Secretary General during Jammeh's time.
Yes.
Victimized people.
Exactly.
I'm glad you didn't say during Sadauda Jawara's time.
Yes.
And I'm glad you've not said
of course you don't understand.
Under Adama Barrow. Yes. I'm glad you've not said that.
Yeah.
So there, if under Jammeh's time, things were not
normal.
normal.
But just because it didn't happen under Jawara doesn't mean that it won't happen next time.
So I mean,
so if there is a law that really made it independent, that's all the more better.
No, a Secretary General was the one that victimized people.
Yeah.
Imagine if that Secretary General's office is independent. What would have happened?
No,
in fact, the victimization will be a lot more elaborate.
No, he wouldn't have been interested in politics. No, he would not have been interested in politics. You know, the Secretary General would not have been interested in politics. People were victimized because of political reasons, because the President wanted them out for one reason or the other. And you very briefly, some of the achievements he said, CRC, well, the Constitution, well, he's not very impressed with the CRC, but he's very impressed with the Janneh Commission, even though he disagreed that there was no selective justice. He mentioned other achievements,
one thing that I wanted to put to you,
Barrow,
which is your area. Yeah. That is the media.
We are coming there. Don't worry. You have hold your peace.
In the media.
We are coming there. We are coming there.
I'll wait on the list.
Yeah, we are coming there. Yes. So, what do you make? I mean, you are the government who are in power. You know, all this trouble, one could say, have been inherited from you and your government. How have you, according to you, Barrow did things differently in the last 4 years?
Thank you very much, very much, Lamin, and would want to commend Gitteh for the points he raised up.
Yes.
And those are valid points.
Okay.
You know, for me, it's about national interest, not like he affiliates with a different political party. Yeah. I don't have that mindset. Gambia is bigger than all of us. What I would want to elaborate, these are some of these issues we've not been accepting as a party, and we gave very valid points, but at the time people never saw the points that we raised.
They were just saying APRC.
Yes, I will come to the CRC later. What I would want to begin is with the Janneh Commission. There were a lot of flaws within the commission. When you're to make inquiries, your powers does not give you the potential to be selling materials, and other equipments. I don't believe that was part of the commission's job. So those were areas for me. For me, those were mistakes. Not all of it were Jammeh's assets. For example, if you said most of these vehicles were state vehicles, for me, I believe if the vehicles are in good condition, they should go back to government. It must be used by government because it belongs to the state. Secondly, if you sell them, it should be something openly known. Like the bidding is this, Lamin Chap bought them for 1 million. It should go to state coffers, not to give away prices to individuals. It means the same thing. What I did was bad. You coming to repeat the same thing, not doing it according to law and what would suit the Gambian people. For me, the job that was done, it was not satisfactory. Again, you come to the government white paper. If you look at the people acquitted...
Listen now, let me make this clear, because the Janneh Commission recommended that those assets belonging to those people adversely mentioned should be forfeited to the state. It didn't specifically say they should be sold.
They themselves were selling cattle.
No, I mean, were
they sold
selling? You mean the Janneh Commission is
Yes, when the commission was still ongoing, they sold even tractors.
No, you don't understand. Can you clarify also that? I thought the Janneh Commission said those individuals mentioned should have their assets frozen to the state. Did it categorically say they should be sold?
That happened. I am telling you that they did the selling.
Who did during that? The Janneh Commission or the government of the Gambia?
The commission were responsible.
The Ministry of Justice.
The government was waiting for recommendations and report.
Okay.
And even if the Janneh Commission did it or the government, what did the commission mention about those assets that were sold? If it was did by government, they should have clarified that. But if there is no clarity on it, people will hold the commission responsible.
No, that's where you will get it wrong, because the government actually had the report, ban orders, and
before the report, these things were sold. That's why I'm telling you. Before the report.
By the Minister of Justice, not the commission. I can't remember commission selling things. Okay, but go ahead.
Yes, which again means that government is not following the recommendations that the commission is doing. So I wouldn't say it is successful. Okay. There are flaws along the way. Yeah. Now, when you talk about the government white paper, if you look at the people acquitted, it found most of them were already in government. They should have extended to those that were not in government, looking at it thoroughly, and also give them the same privilege. Okay. Then people would not have said selective justice. But people right under my nose, I said, okay, for these ones, you find an excuse. Yes. Those that are out there, like the likes of Sabali, I believe if Sabali was in government, it would have been considered perhaps the job he was doing. This is where people started saying, like, it's selective justice. It might not actually be selective justice, you know, based on the explanations he did and some of these other findings, but they could have extended to people who were not on the cabinet or part of the civil service, etc. People would have been very considerate. Okay, these people are not right under their noses, and the same privileges extended to these people are also reaching them. I would have quite agreed to that. Now, again, coming to the CRRC, before you talk about the final draft, there was a proposed draft.
He talked also about economic, the economic recoveries that they've made. They found the Gambia regime had not even 1 week import cover. There were a lot of failures.
Still, those are debatable. If I want to plunge into that, it will take a lot of time. Those are still debatable. Well, you know, we've seen the issue, the case of when Honorable Fatou came out and talked about the $11 million. Halifa Saleh disagreed. It depends with who you side with. That's why I said it is debatable. Okay. You know, because most of it, concrete evidence we're not giving. I even made a statement on Facebook. I said, if $11 million was taken by Yaya Jammeh, we first received from the EU 75 million euros. I said 75 is more than 11, and the euro is far above the dollar. You cannot tell us the state coffers are empty. What went more than that came? And people started saying, you making a point. That's why I said it is debatable. You know,
so let's move to the CRC.
On these instances. Now, the CRC, I am once among many who's part of the inter-party committee. 99% of the workshops and validation workshops organized, I was present. As political parties, there were a lot of consensus we agreed to, and we made proposals during this workshop that the CRC need to work on that. But to our astonishment, the final draft came out and none of these areas were captured. Now, if you told me there are opinions of other people, not only groups, but even individuals that need to be captured, we received this information from one of the CRC members. And I told them that when the time comes for people to say no, go to these individuals to say no. You are going to kill the draft before it reaches where it has to be. So partially I would blame the CRC. I am a believer that when you make law, it's for the country. You don't look at the interests of individuals. If it doesn't affect us now, tomorrow it will. Maybe our children, our great-grandchildren, the law is the law until it is changed. And I've been advocating for, if we believe in the 97 Constitution, some of the laws are bad. What is stopping us from changing the bad laws? When you feel it is not good.
Necessarily come up with a new constitution.
Exactly. Does the law even provide to throw away the 97 Constitution? It's a big question mark that legal experts, legal minds need to give us answers to. A lot of people are questioning. I said, for me, the final draft is like a top-bottom approach, what they use. And instead, it should have been bottom-top approach. You don't just capture the interests of the allies or a few for them to benefit. Majority who don't feel part and parcel of it, they will come out and tell you no. Though there are political reasons, yes, but that's not the overall aspect of it. There is some bit of politics. You know, us as a party, we had a press conference. We did not even talk about all. It was the longest press conference we ever did, over 2 hours. And the points we wanted to discuss were not exhausted. Most of these points he touched out, we mentioned it. And even the judiciary, some of them being live, judges for life. You know, all these are issues. Is it to the national interest or to a separate few?
Interest.
These are issues that Gambians cannot swallow.
The judiciary are conceived to have influence over the CRC.
Exactly.
So they buttered their bread. They were perceived to be sympathetic to the UDP. They made a case for Darboe to escape possible bans. But they opposed Barrow's interest of, you know, ensuring that his first term does not count.
I even commented about that. I am not in cabinet. I'm not part of NPP, but I was against that. I don't believe in retracting laws. Bring in the 2 terms, but let it start when the law comes into being. Why do you need to
But that's what
validate?
this new constitution would have come to be in 2021. And they would have counted for Barrow. So you naturally don't agree with Barrow on that.
No, the point I am raising is,
Yes, that's what
why
I'm saying.
targeting individuals when you are making a law for the whole country?
Okay, exactly. The moral question is that we don't want anybody. The whole country said there should be 2 terms. No president should serve more than 10 years after Jammeh.
No problem.
No, listen. That is the problem many people had who are not NPP or UDP, or let's say who are not UDP, because as far as I'm concerned, UDP and NPP are the same school of thought. It's just now for political reasons, power play. They are now at diagonal, but they are all the same. The people who didn't believe to that school of thought wanted this document because it is very, very good in many other aspects. Now, all this became a problem when the transitional government that was meant to preside over these things and implement them is now trying to be a government for a longer term. That's why they are running against this thing. Anyway, let's move on. Briefly, briefly.
Yes.
What do you make of his?
Just allow me.
What do we make of his claims that there have been a lot of success in terms of
our
reputational, restoration of our good image in the world? I mean, we were a pariah on the Jammeh, but now, like he said, many international organizations have embraced us and in fact make us an example. Which of course critics said we are now blowing.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yes.
I was even coming to that.
Yeah.
But still, the CRC has to take blame. If not all, partly. They cannot run away from that. Because what they draft is what people looked at to decide yes or no. So that is key.
What do you make of the current efforts? Honorable Salah of Dodou is of the thought that we don't need any negotiation in that. We just need to bring it back to the National Assembly, because after all, it's the National Assembly who can decide its fate.
He's quite right on that. But the National Assembly is divided. Unless and until you convince them. And convincing them means most of the points raised has to be changed. That's the bottom line.
And that's what former Nigerian president's been doing. But again, Dodou said, it wasn't necessary. And the political parties have no influence, even though Jonathan is trying to convince the political party, because he believes, I think those are the people who are influence over the MPs.
No, the political party leaders don't have influence. I have said it in one of my interviews.
That's what Dodou said.
And they are quite right. Before they said it, I mentioned it in an interview. When I was contacted by Standard newspaper, I said it, that political party leaders call them for meetings and whatever. It is the MPs that will decide. It does not mean APRC have 5 MPs in parliament. What the party leader says, that's what they will do. We don't operate like that.
Unfortunately,
we don't operate like that.
Mama Kande's 2 MPs,
we're divided.
Members of GDC, voted against the constitution.
Yes.
But Mama Kande
supported
was in support of the constitution.
Yes.
So leaders were not necessarily
of democracy.
It should not have reached to that level. The MPs, they should have
so
engaged.
The only trouble with that is already those 2 National Assembly members, even before, had almost fallen out with GDC. They are already subscribing to NPP's agenda. That's
people can change their minds within a second.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I mentioned earlier that politics is into play.
Ideally, if the MPs had used their discretion and independent convictions in this matter, they would be commended. They would be sentenced.
That would have been
difficult. But they cannot. No way. They were influenced by political. It's very clear.
Look. All the cast is as full as it is empty. Okay. So that's your view. But to me, it's a totally.
I know that parliamentarians were influenced by the political masters. That's why they threw this out. There's no question about that. That's my.
Parliamentarians are political masters themselves. They don't have masters.
Not in many. That's what you're supposed to.
Ideally,
that is the case. But it didn't work out way. Okay, Mustapha.
You did raise a point about what he talked about, relationship, foreign policies, etc. I think the question we need to ask: why did Jammeh fall out
with the international community?
Yes, some of them was the issue of LGBT.
You see, the problem is Jammeh himself had said that LGBT thing is not an issue. right? But he always makes it an issue whenever he receives criticisms for his own human rights abuses and so many other things. He would say, I don't agree with them because they want LGBT, I don't want that. When naturally, it is not the case. There are many things that they do not agree with him.
It was key amongst what happened. Looking at the former EU ambassador, the statements he made, it was public. To the extent people have to come in the limelight, myself included, that we're not going to tolerate that. Even when it comes to making laws, I have said it. Democracy itself, I said, if you import democracy in the West and you want to install it here, it is going to crumble. We are a people of faith. Let people not undermine them. Muslims and Christians, we have allow me to learn, and we have our customs and traditions.
Mr. Jah, locking up your political opponents, locking up and killing journalists, cannot be a democracy of one type or the other.
I am not talking about that aspect. I am talking about making laws.
Community disagreed with Gambia.
I have said a million times that whatever was wrong yesterday cannot be right today. And the people watching could attest to that. I am a believer of whatever it's wrong, it's wrong. But be it Jammeh, Jawara or Barrow or whoever is coming tomorrow. I put Gambia in front of me.
So you
I have never advocated for
that we have really regain our international respect with the coming of Barrow. I mean, he pursued a foreign policy that did not antagonize the people who really meant well for us. He did not imprison, well, so to speak, imprison people because of their political beliefs. People are no longer arrested arbitrarily or a knock on the door and you don't know who is picking who and for what for. Nobody is tortured, well, so to speak, as it was on the scale of Jammeh's regime. So you will agree with him that a lot has changed in that regard over the last 4 years.
I have said that on several platforms, that yesterday and today cannot be the same. Areas that I object to, like for instance, if you said we inherited corruption and still there is corruption, for me that is absolute failure. When you inherit something good, it should be killed off. You don't have to allow it to continue. I have said it since 2017. You know, it was unfortunate I never had a platform whereby most of my thoughts and beliefs would have been aired because I was not actively participating in politics. I have said it in 2017 that if I get close to Barrow, 3 months, this country, they will feel a change.
If you get, and he listens.
When Honorable Bachili came out and talked about 90 days, people ridiculed it and they took it as mockery. Well, I said it, and I'm repeating it since 2017, that the change people yearned for, they would have felt it within 3 months if I was close to Barrow. And most of the proposals and ideas I would give him, they will see a different Gambia. I said that before Bachili said so.
You know, people felt a lot of changes. You know, sometimes we take things for granted. And that is human nature. But like you said, you have been a prominent journalist in this country. You knew the domain of journalism, how it was in this country. We had journalists that were killed, Chief Ibrahim Mani, for a very simple opinion. Silly things. Very simple opinion. He was killed. We had journalists whose mouths were torn because they said they were accused of saying things that wasn't in favor of government. Ibrahim Asila, the current information minister, I mean, his house, there was an arson. They wanted to kill him, he escaped. Now, in the journalism domain, we used to have, and in fact that was a way of crippling the opposition media. There was a newspaper tax, you knew about that. And that was almost over 100,000 a year. That was just specifically to target the journalists. When Barrow government came, they removed that in 2018, that newspaper tax. The other thing is, there were a lot of seditious, false information things, you know, online media that were there. And for the first time, the civil society, Gambia Press Union, actively, in collaboration with government and other partners, sat down to talk about things that are okay for media freedom in the country. They put a document together and a bill was drafted based on that consensus and is with the parliament. Now they are waiting for an equally independent and important institution of government to decide. So from the perspective of the executive, there is very strong political will, and of course not only will, accompanied by action to make sure that the journalists have what they want in this country.
Now that you brought it up, we'll cross over to somebody who had served as GPU vice president until recently. Do you agree entirely, that is, that the environment for press freedom and journalism has improved remarkably from 2017 to now. Although there are still misgivings, I know. Maybe Mr. Gitteh exaggerated the successes in that front. You can enlighten us.
I don't even know where to start. It took a lot of time.
Well, maybe you start
so
achievements.
let me say that you see, there are reasons why there are human rights violations, where states commit human rights violations. It's simply and squarely because of corruption. Leaders kill. Leaders, where there is endemic corruption, there will be human rights violation. It will only take some time, but it will eventually come. Now, the press freedom in the Gambia from 2016 to now, it's not a creation of a government. It's a passive press freedom. It's not something that's been... It has been a system that was in place that was victimizing journalists. And that system came out. That system was toppled. And we went into our new system. That was a passive change. It's not an active change. Because the judicial laws that Mr. Gitteh was talking about was changed by our effort. We're the one who took the case to Supreme Court. And even that time, of course, Bata Medu did not defend the judicial part. And
but there were so many attempts
and also know that Ba was very different.
Give him time.
Ba was very different from lot of people we see in government currently, and so it was a passive change. But I didn't want to actually speak about a lot of issues. I just want to start from the basics, like why did we have a change in the first place? And let me just start by saying that let's take the conversation away from political parties and away from political leaders and away from, and look at it as ourselves, as you, as me, as everybody, as the man in the street and things like that, because it helps that way, so that people are not defensive. But we are talking about, actually it was not 1 week of import cover, it was 1 month import cover that Jambia left. Now, but the problem was that when you have the Jambe's kind of system, now you may know that when Jambe took over power, we had a $4 billion of domestic of debt, international and domestic. When he left in 2016, we are $58 billion indebted. We were almost
up to our neck.
International partners had designated us high-risk countries. In other words, they said we are highly indebted poor countries. I don't know, they have an acronym for it.
HIBC.
Yes.
HBC,
now, but what may interest you to know is that Barrow had taken more loan than Jambe had in his first 5 years.
Let me hear that again.
When Barrow came in and inherited the 58 billion, we're currently 68 billion, approaching 70 billion dollars in debt. Now the question is why? And why do we have public sector corruption? Now, my understanding of things is that Barrow is going in for construction like Jambe does, to build a certain political cloud. Now, instead of focusing on what everyone should understand to be development is not building roads. Anybody can do that. You don't.
That's debate. But that's debate.
No, you don't even.
That is the most.
No, listen. Let's go. Let's go ahead.
Construction is not development.
You yourself
that
said
is
we
the
should
most.
But you yourself said we should listen.
If you would just give me the latitude to explain. Now, you see, you don't need a president to build a road. Every state, you know, there is a reason why they said when you have a higher domestic debt, you are bound to crowd out private sector from accessing loans, because everybody is comfortable giving the state the loan because you know the state will pay. Now, corrupt leaders go into construction because that's where they make money. That's where you give favored contracts to your favored contractors to finance you in return, and you make money. That's what corrupt.
And that has been happening from 2017 to now.
Barrow has done that from the very beginning. Now, I'll give you an example. I don't talk about fictions. Now, you would see that when Barrow came in 2016, 17. They had bring this. You would see a classical case of the Banjul project. They kept increasing it. It was $35 million now, then 37. Now it's $40 million. Exactly. So, but I will come to that. You see, when the Jane Commission had tipped certain investors, they call favored contractors.
Yes.
And you know that the Banjul project is one of the favored contractors on the Jambe, and the same thing continued on the Barrow.
Yeah.
Now, what I was trying to say is that when Barrow was to come into power, we had certain things in place. One, we had a debt distressed country, which was having a lot of debt portfolio. Two, we had a human rights situation to deal with. Three, we had institutional collapse to deal with. Four, we had a decline in the productive sectors of our economy. For example, since the latter days of the regime, even Jambe confessed that to that on the screen, that his agriculture policy didn't do as well. You would know that, so like not just that 73% of Gambians, there is a poverty inequality gap, rural Gambia, which 73%, like a child born in Salikene is 3 times likely to be poor than a child born in Kombo, which is largely attributed to a slump, a decline in agricultural productivity. So when Barrow came, we expected that there will be a number of reforms. One, let's start with institutional reform. Let's look at the state-owned enterprises. There was an audit report called the State-Owned Enterprise Report, which was done by Ernst & Young, the British law firm, the British audit firm. And it had diagnosed our public sectors a number of cases. Of course, I did a snippet of a story on this report involving Mambure Njai, and he went and buy some building that he knew would not be used for, and it's still there. And now, that state-owned enterprises, and I welcome everyone to go and read it. If you had looked at it, you would know that it had focused on all the problems, the corruption issues, the slippages, the overstaffed nature. You may know that Gamtel and Gamtel accounts as of 2016, 73% of all employees in cellular and telecommunication are staff of Gamtel and Gamtel. Now tell me that's not
So if Africell said they are the biggest employer,
is it okay? Because a lot of things are said.
I'm just coming. I'm coming, and I am referring to
Give
documents you can read.
Yes.
Documents of government's own investigations.
That's
Now, Mr. Ja alluded to the fact that, you see, there was not a problem of, you can't say there was a problem when you come, you aggravate the problem. When you say there is a problem, when you come, you fix the problem. Now, I'll give you an example of Gamtel and Gamtel, right? That this is contained in a government document they call a retrenchment plan for Gamtel and Gamtel. Now, the public sector, the debt portfolio, when Barrow comes, he increased it. He went in for construction projects that he knew would weigh very heavily on our economy, and then there would be a huge deficit that is going to have to be financed through loans. He knew that, but it's totally political and totally to favored contractors. Now, if you had looked at also Jane Commission, the Jane Commission was a fantastic work, and I invite everybody to go to the Justice Ministry's website and download all the 9 volumes. Never mind the money spent or the money recovered or anything. Look forward. Look at the policy recommendations they have made. Even contractors. Do you know the Jane Commission? I don't need to name companies here. There are vehicle companies that Jane Commission has said government must suspend buying from them for 9 months. And as early as 2017, Barrow continued to work with them. The same has happened in mining. You remember I did a story on the mining sector. And if you had looked at it, the Jane Commission had recommended for government to stop all the mining, do a scientific environmental impact assessment in all over the combers, and look and rehabilitate the lands that are totally destroyed moving forward. Let's look at the Janneh Commission in the context of moving forward. Now go and read it and tell me that the government actually has any idea what they are doing. Now, the SOE audit is dumped. The Janneh Commission in terms of policy recommendations is dumped. If they had recommended Janneh Commission, I would not have done this passport story, because those investors, those boys who call themselves investors, because they are boys, actually one of them is my age, who had gone to State House, would not even have gone, because this kind of processes would have been reformed. Now think about the security sector reform. These are some of the issues we had wanted to correct moving forward. Think about security sector reform. Security sector reform, actually, this you can refer to it. There was a survey, Afrobarometer survey. Incredible. Over 3/3 of this country are not even aware that there is something called security sector reform. All these press conferences they are holding is a facade. And that is why when Sankare talked about Umar Sajo, it was meant to disguise government's inefficiency. There was no security sector reform that identified Umar Sajo. It was not. That is why he couldn't provide us with anything. You see, and then so if you looked at it, and you look at all the evidences of activities that had happened, from Faraba Commission to the 3 years Jotna, and the state and the police and the security sector handling of it, and the conduct of the SIS, even until today, you will realize that all evidences are pointing to the fact that there is no security sector reform. I'm talking about concrete things. You've seen how they dealt with Faraba. Immediately when there was tension, that was when they deployed paramilitary forces, a reinforcement of Faraba.
Typical Jammeh style.
No one does that. When Americans took over the Capitol Hill, like the building, when some gunmen and some took over, did they go and clamp down on them and flush them out with guns? No one does that. No one sent that kind of a reinforcement to a highly charged atmosphere like that. Now, of course, people who went in that place were armed, but you could see how they handled with it. They said 4 people died, including 1 security officer. In the Gambia, it would have been a bloodbath. You see what they did at the 3 years Jota. You only need to divorce yourself from it and look at it through an independent lens, and you see it. Now, the rising debt, I've talked about it, $10 billion is within this short period. Never mind the amount of money we spent. The highest allocation in the budget, Barrow allocates to the government 2 times almost the amount of money Gambia had ever allocated. Is that true? 25 billion, right? And in fact, they wanted 32 billion, right? Now, but think about that. Regardless of that, we're still experiencing an endless public sector corruption.
Rise in price, commodity prices.
Yeah, I wouldn't even come to that, because probably that is.
I think
and then
you make but this is
and
like
then also talk
minutes.
about but
you would have to give us the opportunity.
All along, you spent 20 minutes talking. You and Jai. He has been silent throughout the program.
Combined.
Since he finished Malagan.
Allow us
and if you are talked about
conversation.
All right.
That is.
Now
you
listen.
have to let us.
We stop it.
Mr.
Gitteh.
It's too much. Yes.
Mr. Gitteh.
Yes.
These small things he is itemizing.
Yes.
These are the kind of things people believe should have been the successes. But instead, he's
okay.
This is what is developing.
Let's jump into. He's
counting them as failures.
Let's jump into.
Now listen, I'm coming. I'm summing up. He's counting these things as failures. You came and said Jammeh was the devil. Now you took more money than Jammeh within a short space of time.
Okay.
And they bought more cars than Jammeh.
You bought more vehicles than Jammeh.
Everything.
So you had
and they arrest more journalists than Jammeh.
Yeah, we are coming to that. You had more money, more goodwill than Jammeh ever had.
So
yet you said you are fundamentally
and his party bought more vehicles than Jammeh. I was going to come to that.
He said one particular thing. He said constructing roads are not necessarily development.
He said they are not development.
Anybody can do it.
Now that is
okay, let's start from
number one misleading statement is construction of roads is not development. Now, communication of any type is the basis, is the foundation for any serious entity for prosperity. When you go to the West, like in Canada, for instance, they dig into mountains, I mean mountains, to make sure they get roads to places that people live. Because when you do that, you get people what they need. Let's talk about the Hakalang Road. Building a road is not development. When you are in Hakalang, let's say from one end of Hakalang to another, when a woman gets pregnant and it's time for that woman to deliver, before you get that woman to the hospital or the nearest health center, the amount of time it takes can kill.
But what about
No.
If you get to that hospital, you didn't find any medicine.
And we will come to that. No, we will come to that. You know, before you talk about a hospital,
if you travel on that
road,
you don't find any medicine in the hospital.
You are not letting me speak.
Hakala, yes.
Let me speak first.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have a woman that is pregnant, in fact, I'll come to maternal mortality and some of the factors that are responsible for it. It's not even true. That's not true. Real statistics. The statistics from the Ministry of Health. What journalists need to do is to go and meet the right people. No, we'll come to that. A lot of time is taken. So construction of roads.
Yes.
If you have people in rural communities, one of the reasons why we have a lot of rural urban migration is because a lot of times infrastructure is lacking. And the basis of infrastructure is roads. You cultivate your crops, you need to take them to market. You have your people sick, you need to take them to the hospital. So to say construction of road is not development is
maybe
the
not a
height
priority.
of it's a priority because it's the basis. You cannot take people to hospitals. Sometimes you will have taxi drivers in rainy seasons.
Chairman, I think I need to clarify
women, no,
my
you
point.
have to
He is involved in selective distortion.
That's not
if
true.
I hear you
So
well,
that's
you
not
are
true.
saying that to say that road construction is not development.
It's bullshit.
Misleading.
It's not only misleading.
No,
the
it's
other aspect is security sector reform.
Yes.
Now, you know, and institutional reform. When this government came into power, there were over 3,000 ghost workers. That cost government tens of millions of dollars. They stopped the payment of salaries after assessment. Almost 3,000 people that were on paper paid salary, they stopped that. For anybody to say that that reform is nothing is very, very misleading. For security sector reform, now when you want to reform a sector professionally, you first do the assessment to see what are the wrongs, what is wrong with this institution. First, that was what they did, the security experts. This is EU in collaboration with partners, ECOWAS, and the Gambia government. They have realized there were a lot of abuses by security officers. You have CRRC dealing with it. And they will come, TRRC, they will come with the recommendations. Until we get to that, that is TRRC that we're waiting. But then in the security sector reform, we have at the same time, you know, in as much as we want to remove people, let's say we have majors that are not even supposed to be lieutenants. You have a major who has a family, and the only source of income for that 10 children that are going to school is that major salary. So you don't just remove that major from the office. And I can tell you for certain, apart from the defense policy, government of the Gambia, Ministry of Defense, in fact, the armed forces provided questionnaires to different soldiers and officers, asking them about what their objectives are in future. You understand? Those that do not have proper qualification, but they are in the army, there is need for a way out for them. This happens with the availability of funding. You don't just do them, and you don't just throw people out. So the security sector reform is really in a hijack. What we should understand is security is not politics. You don't come out and start shouting about this and this is what is happening. This is security. They have their own way of dealing with issues. If you have any question, go to the CDS, he's very open. If you have a question, go to the Minister of Defense. Now to say that the media freedom that you have here is a passive change.
He said
it's a passive change. I mean, not active change. Yeah. What is your definition of passive change? And
remember,
what is
he has not exhausted.
He just mentioned a few lines. He did it and moved on. No, now let me talk about it. Now, as far as I am concerned, under President Yahya Jammeh, veteran journalists like Deda Haidara did so much work to make sure that people report stories without issues. It is okay to arrest an individual. What is not okay is to violate the rights of that individual. If a police officer suspects you, just for minimum suspicion, law has given the police, that institution, the right to invite you or arrest you for questioning. What he needs to say is, how many journalists have their rights violated?
He was coming to that.
He's not, I mean,
he has a list.
He's not coming to that. So if a minister, a government invites media houses, and government goes and say, look, if you have 100,000 newspaper tax levied on journalists, what you're trying to do is to, prevent those that want to practice journalism but do not have money from establishing institutions. Government is the one that went and scrapped that away. Press union has no damn power to change that. If government does that, that is active change from the government. If government sits down and put down policies and communicated to partners and say, hey, we need this. And he said it was the media that fought for that. Under Yahya Jammeh, I would repeat again, you have so many journalists like yourself who tried for some of those things to change. They fell on deaf ears. This government listened and they put out documents and said, in fact, this document is not enough from the government. You as partners in this, you are welcome. You all went and had a discussion. There were partners, civil society organizations. You agreed on documents, and these documents were put together in the form of a bill and sent very genuinely to the National Assembly, and they are waiting for all these draconian laws to be removed. You said that is a passive change. A passive change, government would it have contributed, and that is very dishonest from you.
You had the president. You had the president say that. Threatened the other time. You had that?
No. That was not threatening. Okay, let me come in here.
You had that?
Now listen, you agree. There are still remaining draconian laws.
It's not remaining, Cham.
No, I'm saying
there is no bill before the National Assembly that changed anything from Gambia era as far as.
So the bill you are talking about, in fact, does not have those.
It's with the National Assembly.
Now listen, we will see. Okay, now you agree that not long ago the president reminded people,
yes,
journalists, that those same laws are here, even though we have never used it. He didn't say they don't intend to use it. We don't know what will happen, but there have been problems. You can't compare them with, of course, the time of Jammeh, but there have been issues, and
you see, Cham. You see
what
I was trying to put across is that you see, as a citizen, it's very self-degrading and insulting to tell people that somehow Barrow served you because he has not arrested you. Barrow is not paid to arrest people. Barrow is not paid to violate the rights of citizens.
Jammeh was not paid to arrest people.
But
Jammeh was not paid. Listen, that is irresponsible.
You see,
listen.
No. I would not agree with that.
Take your time. You'll come back to the issue. He's taking the issues that have been troubles. Now listen.
If you are saying, for example, I should praise Barrow because he hasn't
He should be defending Jammeh.
No, but he said the same thing. Mr. Jas said the same thing.
Jas should be defending Jammeh, not him.
No, but what he said, what Jas said,
okay,
what Mr. Jas said, was the same thing we are talking about here. You see, all the reason why we came to have 2016. Now, I probably had participated in a lot of communication issues at that time than he did. Not that I was on the team of the president, but I was a journalist covering on a campaign trail, and I heard every word. I followed Barrow in every little village he went to.
Even to
and had and recorded everything he said. And you were at the Standard at the time. I was both reporting for the Standard, my blog, and the Talking News Agency.
Yeah.
So I recorded everything he said. And I am telling you that the reform that we had planned, the reform that the country wanted to go through, institutions, laws, and practice, are things that are aborted. Whether you blame Barrow for it or UDP or anybody, that's for politicians to talk about. But what I am saying, that reform is aborted. And the very fact that you are telling me, I have a, you see, what we need to understand is that a government is like Kerr, a big Kerr. You and I, all of us in the studio have come together to put our money to hire army to protect us, hire police to protect us, hire the president to ensure the police do their work in protecting us, hire civil servants to serve us. This is the basic definition of a government. Now, that army that I pay to protect me has no business in torturing me. He shouldn't be praised for not. It's like praising me for doing my Malagan stories. That's my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. Do you understand?
Make it short,
So
because you forget.
It's what I am. Now let's go to violation.
You forget a lot of things.
You see,
let's see specific things. Yes, go ahead.
You see, Ibrahima goes to tell the president, I suppose it's him, that no journalist right has been violated, no journalist has been arrested, but that's not true. Just few months ago, Pamodu Bojang's radio station was closed down. He was arrested. In fact, if it were not Batambedu, because we said we were going to protest, and we would have been gotten arrested and charged. If it were not Batambedu, we would not have seen
Batambedu
No
is
way.
government.
No.
Look,
we went to Ibrahim.
No. Whatever bad did he did it
I
in
am
the name
talking
of
to
government.
you about.
Why are you separating Batambedu?
You are finishing the issue and
I definitely don't want it to be an argument.
You have to
I would
want to know that.
I definitely
there has to be discipline and decency.
Yeah,
Let's
I
wait
would
for one
not be
another.
in an argument.
Yeah.
What I am trying to say is that just that time they arrested people and held them incommunicado without access to their family. Illegally shut down the radio stations because even Ibrahima is on record telling us that, well, Ibrahima Silla.
Oh, okay.
That yes, he did not order the withdrawal of the license of those two radio stations.
He said so.
And you know how many journalists were, there are a number of journalists who were beaten by the police. They didn't even bother to investigate. GP is at the heart of these things. But you have seen the Secretary General's statement which was published on the Standard. Now this is, you see, you and I and him and everybody has an interest in protecting ourselves. I don't conceive the idea. I cannot conceive the idea of anybody defending a government. It's like anybody defending your own company that's violating you. That's the basic and the most clean definition of it. You have established government to serve you. Now the thing about the kind of infrastructure of governance we have right now is that it's clear as noonday that the Janneh Commission policy documents, everything is dumped. Any objective observer will tell you that. It's clear as noonday that the SOE audit, they don't even talk about it. Now, you know that from 2016 to 2019, the Auditor General's report has not been for a single time discussed in the National Assembly. Maybe you can take that to UDP, APRC and others who are in the political parties. But what I am trying to say is that what the Gambians have changed in this country in 2017 has been a total disaster from the word go. And political parties are a passive player in this, including the president. And the president holds the highest responsibility. Now, that is the tragedy I'm talking about. I'm not blaming the NPP. I am telling you that what has been happening here in this country is that we put together a bunch of people. We are paying something close to $3 billion every year, allowances and salaries and per diems, who are doing nothing to serve us. Now tell me, what service in this country do you enjoy? Tell me, you as a citizen, what service? What traffic? Traffic is blocked. You don't get electricity. That's not you don't blame just APRC for that. You cannot blame. We cannot be stuck in time and blame APRC. Even if your dad comes to slap you, it's APRC. It doesn't make sense. You cannot be stuck in time. It's being stuck in time. If Jambe indebted the country, Barrow comes and is indebting the country, it's a problem. You have state-owned enterprises audit that's been financed by government $10 million and they dump it. You have Jame Commission reports recommending policy recommendations, they dump it. You have retrenchment plan. You have retrenchment plan. You have a retrenchment plan for Gamtel and Gamtel to reduce their staff, they dump it. You have Gamtel and Gamtel. Now you know how indebted Gamtel is and Nawek is. As of 2016 to 2017, they were owing $9 billion of debt. Now, the problem with that is because they are weighing heavily on government for support for all the loans they take. And what do we have from Nawek in return? You have a bunch of people who are stuck. Even my village, a Kabilo in my village is more efficient than Nawek because they can afford to put solar somewhere. We can't even get... I was in Bissau. Now, anybody who's gone to Guinea-Bissau may tell you in Bissau, electricity is more efficient than Gambia. I don't know of any other place. I'm talking about the capital. And I have been to I have used their internet. Their internet is even more efficient. We are serving, we don't even need a government right now. Because what is government doing for you or me or anybody?
Well, that underlines his views about the success or failures of the government. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Close.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to thank
closing remarks. Yes.
I just want to clarify. In the first place, I did not come to defend, and I don't take it as a debate.
Okay.
He raised a lot of issues about Jammedis. I could have taken him on
that.
I know. We'll spend longer hours because I also have facts, and I know some of the issues that happen. As a government, they will give you all the blame. But was it actually him is questionable. But today, if you look at a lot of issues, when you talk about Barrow, they tell you no. I'm a believer of moving forward. Now, things that happened in the past. I said, if it is still happening, for me, you are worse than the guy or the people that were there. People want change. People want change. And in leadership, if change is not created, that is failure for me. You cannot say, okay, Jan never did it right. Things that are happening is because Jan did not do it right. You still continue with that. I don't accept that as an excuse. And Gambia, I don't call it small, it's a tiny country. If you want to talk about achievements, I've said it in several platforms. What is in Banjul as a capital city? A city where you can walk the four corners of Banjul on foot. You don't even need a bicycle. You don't even have a 5-star hotel in Banjul. Now, if you tell me that the Banjul project is about concrete of roads, I said that's an insult to Gambia.
$40 million.
Banjul deserve more than that. For me, you come to Denton Bridge, it should be welcome to Banjul. Why always, within small portion, the sewage system, we're talking about all this, the rainy season is coming. We'll see proof of the work that was there. A lot could have been achieved within 4 years. I'm not saying they did not do anything. With all these loans, these subsidies you receive, these grants, etc. With the support of the international community, we are back with
$28 million from the IMF.
Jammeh had problem with these leaders now. Barrow is mending ways with them. So they had more opportunities than Jammeh. If these are the excuses you are taking. And within 4 years, can you list the achievements that they will take you? We don't even reach one page. It would be a question mark. Now, for instance, you talk about 4,000 classrooms. I am asking, which schools?
Well, that's what I had.
If I can build or erect or put 4,000 classrooms, how many schools would that be? There are certain schools that don't even have 100 classrooms, and it's a complete school. But even I would ask, which school did they build in 4 years?
I think Jammeh said he built 200 high schools or whatever.
More than that.
More than that.
Yes, this is what I'm asking.
Maybe those high schools were all given a class.
Is it only enough to build classrooms? Look at Gambia College. The poor now, they have a problem. You talk about scholarship. During Jammeh's era, you had more scholarships awarded internally, externally compared to now. And people who graduate, they studied overseas. How is the trend now? Now, the education system we have in the Gambia, if you don't have money, You'd rather sit at home, or people are facing a lot of challenges even to have continuity when it comes to education. So all these are areas and factors that government, when they come, should ease the burden, make it more accessible, even to make it cheaper. Then you leave a legacy that education was $100, now I make it $50. And look at the rise of prices of commodities, etc., knowing that the common Gambian, it's where they rely on.
Now, at party level, finally, your party has been quoted in one of the leading papers. Kerr said, Barrow is actually, individual is the biggest enemy of APRC. What do you mean by that?
It is not a new statement. We believe, like, our vehicles have been seized, and within a very short span, they managed to have more vehicles than we did within 20 years or more. Our accounts, we said even if there's $5, they talked about the Janet Commission have to look through it. It's not captured in their report, not the government-wide paper, and we're still following it. It's like they're just giving us the back foot. Now, when you talk about democracy, yes, how about us? Are we not part of the democracy that we're building in this country? It is like us as a party.
Maybe they're trying to find out whether any of those accounts would link to President Jammeh, who's been indicted by the Commission of Inquiries for having taken a lot of money from the...
These were party accounts where Jammeh himself was not even a signatory. We've clarified this over and over again. The question is, where are our vehicles? We're saying that if you believe that I don't own this vehicle, you take it from me, it should be proof kept somewhere. Let's find out whether it belongs to me or not. Now, if you come to conclusions that it is not mine, and you give out concrete facts that I would have to agree that it is not mine, then the vehicle could be sold or given to government. But where are the vehicles? That is the question.
Did you see any of these vehicles? Could you recognize them in the streets when you see one?
Some of them repented.
Repented?
Yes.
But the number plates have not changed.
Some of them has crossed the border.
Really?
Yes. People in Senegal, Bissau are giving us information, even pictures of
Jammeh's vehicles or APRC vehicles?
I am telling you, APRC vehicles, including even Jammeh's vehicles. Wow. Because these type of vehicles, some of which were unique. You see it, you said Jammeh owned this. Wow. So if you see it elsewhere, you will definitely easily recognize it. So for us, we believe it was a strategy just to kill or to strangle the party.
The government and not Barrow. Of course you would say Barrow.
He has executive powers that when he gives orders, you're not going to challenge it because the Constitution provides for that. But when you fold your hands and sit back, what do you want us to believe?
So what do you want him to do? To right now give an executive order for those vehicles to be returned and the money is defrozen?
No, it's not about only an executive order. The information we received
but
was they were going to
investigate.
investigate.
Do you have any?
So
do you have
at what stage is the investigation?
At least the money is in the bank, not taken away. You don't even know that.
We don't even know. We don't have access to it. We don't even know.
So
where is there or
okay, finally, very briefly.
You're making it brief. I mean,
no, because I wanted to talk about the Congress. That's why I wanted
to. So Congress.
Yeah,
we'll do our Congress. It's on the
okay. I thought perhaps you have more.
You know, well, that's our big event. But then this one is about the government, and I think these 4 years is very important.
All right. Can you just speak on these things about APRC?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, usually APRC, I wouldn't want to. You know, I have very limited time, so I wouldn't want to go into the vehicle and all of that about the commission, because I mean, I believe there are things that Darboe highlighted that are important for me to. So, like I said, in any government, in any country, arrest is part of the process. Arresting people is part of the process. In England, anywhere, when they arrest you,
what happens to you next?
What happens to you next? That's why the law provided. There's a provision for arrest in our laws. So arresting journalists is not a reason to say government is bad. Journalists, police, you know, doctors, anybody. If there is a suspicion, I mean, you get arrested. So that is not enough reason to say there is no headway in press freedom. I can bet my life that what he has said here, if it were under Jammeh, we wouldn't have had this. You are an example. You know about that.
He wouldn't have been here.
You understand that. Now, when he said, when he said, it is self-degrading for a citizen to, you know, praise a government for a good job. I'm going to just simplify this. He made, an investigation on the passport issue, on the fisheries, and lately on the investors.
Yes.
And we've all praised him for the good job. That is his job. We thanked him. It's natural. Your son, you send your son to school, pay school fees, give lunch, buy uniform and books. When the person gets aggregate 6, sometimes you organize party for them. In the United States, in anywhere, any sensible and objective-minded society, you vote people into office, you know that you are paying them to do the job. But then when they do the job, you thank them and give them.
Not necessarily be pressing us.
When you say that is again subjective. That depending on people. Barack Obama never spent money from his pocket. Macky Sall never spent money from his pocket to develop a country. Singapore's prime minister, the Dubai caliphs and Saudi Arabia, they never spend money from their pocket.
We have done this, we have done this.
Yeah, and that is the nature of society. And people say, thank you for building our roads, thank you for increasing the salaries for our people. That is nature. If you sit down as a person with education to deny that, you're very insincere in what you say. Now, coming to a lot more developments, in our health sector, where a lot of people tend to blame, especially on infant maternal mortality.
You made interesting comment here, because everybody in the Gambia have seen with their eyes, there are people, in some cases triplets, whose mothers died, and yet you said this is not happening. Statistics are wrong.
No, I didn't say.
But you said it. But you said the figures are exaggerated. But if I hear you well, you said the figures are exaggerated.
Well, you said it could be.
You believe that the figures are exaggerated.
Now,
there is no statistics to compare the past.
That is
no. This
is
is not the past. What's happening now?
That is not even true.
Okay,
Go to Ahmad Samate, Minister of Health.
Yes.
Just in Parliament.
Yes.
There was a day he talked about a report.
He said they're going
that
to
was comparing. No. That compared, the maternal mortality statistics of different countries. Yes. Gambia was at 433 per 100,000, which was very bad. This was in 2020. Senegal was at 300 before. I'll come to the current one. Now, Gambia's case, when in 2020, Gambia reduced that from 433 to 172 per 100,000. Senegal was able to reduce it to 300 per 100,000. Nigeria, 800 per 100,000. Sierra Leone, 1,000 per 100,000. For a statistician, like I would always say, to ascertain, to assess the success or failure of something, you either compare that particular thing to something else, or you compare that thing at different time intervals. Now, when you look at our health sector, for those that are interested, please, when you go to our health sector today, you found out that for women, there are a lot of things that were not available in 2017.
But elementary things like blood is not there.
No, you don't buy blood. You have to tell me a son.
No, what if you said we don't buy blood?
You said there is no blood. That's the basic thing you're talking about.
Exactly.
Who buys blood? Tell us a son. And we'll buy.
But the government used to provide a blood bank. Even on the Jammeh's time, there was a blood bank. The government goes at every length to get blood, so that relatives of patients don't have to run around.
We continue to do that at even a more aggressive scale. But blood is purely by donation anywhere in this world. I want you to.
But if I remember Dr. Samad, he said every death in the hospital then will be investigated henceforth, because apparently he's concerned about these figures. You are dealing with figures. People are dealing with people who have died. They've gone to their burials. They've gone their orphans.
Yes. Again, Lamin. To be honest and to be sincere, there is no hospital in this world where nobody dies.
Even in Canada, where you come from.
Yes, no hospital. Now, what I want you to understand is how much have we achieved compared to where we were.
Exactly.
This is what is important.
That's what we want to talk
about,
yes.
Of course, there are challenges, but are we making achievements? Are we moving forward? Yes. When you look at, I remember there was a time a woman died at Brikama Hospital. You go to some of these young nurses and ask them one night, and there was an outrage that a woman died. And let me be on record to make it clear, no woman should die at labor. But there are very complex, factors that you know,
one lady, one nurse was
that
on air
woman
recently talking about one Marie Gomez, I believe.
Let me finish my thing.
She made a case that really you cannot discount the fact that it's not just.
So let me.
Maybe these complex issues.
Let me finish. At Brikama that particular night, 60 women delivered safely. Okay. 1 woman died. Now in statistics, when you have that, of course, no woman should die.
Yes.
But that is a success for that clinic. Now ask people about how many women deliver at RVTH. How many of them go successfully?
About which there has been no
report. And compare
report.
that to, you know, the number of people that are, and when you talk about maternal mortality, there are a lot of factors to it. One, a lot of women, the most common case of this maternal mortality is pregnancy-induced hypertension. That is, you get high blood during pregnancy. A lot of our people, because of culture, they don't go to nose early. You wait until you are 4 months, you go to hospital. You wait until you are 7 months, you go to hospital. Sometimes people are pregnant, they tell them, you don't eat eggs because it's bad for your system. You don't eat vegetables, it's bad for your system. And you have all of that. And sometimes there is a case in URR. That woman died, and it's one of the women that they distribute all over and blame the health sector. This woman had issue with blood. They needed to donate blood. It was the woman, her husband, and mother-in-law in URR. When it was time for her she needed blood. The husband was told by the nurses to give, to help with blood, to donate blood. The mother of the husband told the son, if you give him blood, your manhood will not function. And the gentleman refused to donate blood to the wife, and the wife died. But you blame that on the hospital because it's passing up. These are serious cases. But the health sector, again, there is a case. I'll come very soon. There is hysteroscopy thing that they do.
There was no scanning machine for a long time. How do they call it? That scans cancer, detect cancer, and other things.
Now there is. I'm telling you about there are machines here at RVTH. When you go there, endoscopy, colposcopy, and heteroscopy. These things in Senegal, when you go there, they charge you $17,000. Now these things are specifically for women. Now you check women's womb to see if there is cancer. Some of them for their private parts, and it's done free in this country. But people talk about Gambia's health sector being bad. How much do you pay for healthcare cost? A hospital, a Gambian is managing a hospital in the US. A Gambian 50 bed. Let me just finish, please.
But the thing is,
you give time to others.
I understand. I'm talking to no, they are not coming anymore. What I'm trying to say is that does not change the fact that if I'm unfortunate to fall ill here and I go to Bruford Health Center, I would only find paracetamol.
No, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. That is not necessarily true.
That's true.
No, that's not necessarily true. But let's talk about these facts. Okay? Now you have a resource. Like I'm giving an example about this Gambian who is managing a hospital, a clinic in the US, 50 bed. His annual budget is 50 million. Gambia's entire health sector is less than 30 million a year. And most of that is for salaries. You cannot, of course, stop salaries because that aspect is one of the things that is affecting this health sector. People are not paid a lot of money. We have lost our doctors and nurses to the Western countries. But then you look at God forbid, when you get sick here as a Gambian, any kind of sickness, you go for operations. After, no matter how much resources they have used, you only pay $500. The antibiotics that they help you, the gloves, the theater, suits, the knives, the needles, the ones they use to make everything together. You pay just $500. And hospital, when they place you in a hospital with all the things they do for you, every week you pay $25.
If there's a doctor at all.
There are, of course, doctors were very...
A woman died waiting in an ambulance at the emergency unit. There was nobody to attend to.
That was a case.
That was an isolated case.
With COVID-19 related issues, and they said that. Now, Senegal, the other problem we have is Gambia's health care provision is very cheap. But in fact, I think Maligans should investigate that. We have more Senegalese coming into the Gambia.
Gambia used to
get
say
health
that
care
there were
than we have
health
Gambians going into Senegal.
Gambia used to say
when you are a
stories.
child,
Yeah.
when you are young, you are under 18, you are treated in this country, irrespective of where you come from, for free. No matter how much money is spent on you, for free.
Now listen.
Pregnant women go to nurse in Jarasoma and other places. So we have a lot of pressure on our health sector.
Dr. Samata said, the former finance minister said, when they came, some of the cost-cutting measures they implemented really enabled them to give the RBT $50 million because basic things were not there in the time of Jammeh. But we have not seen any improvement.
There are, of course, improvements, sir.
People are dying. People go there and they have to refer to hospitals. The problem is there are still problems with procurement. There are criticisms that from different players that, this procurement of, public drugs that government has, there are a lot of corruption, so they were never investigated.
So
that's where the
corruption,
problem.
now you're coming into the legal domain.
Yeah.
It's, let's use his fisheries as an example.
Okay.
He recorded the permanent secretary, supposedly or allegedly receiving
talking to a minister.
Yeah, somebody that gave him the money. Yeah. Now that's fine. But when you go to the court of law, you have to prove it beyond every reasonable doubt. In fact, that case suffered a setback because Justice Ministry found some irregularities with it, and they sent it back to the police. It's easy to say somebody is corrupt, but let's assume this bottle is $50, and the procurement officer said he bought this for $100,000. Now what happens in most cases is they go to the suppliers, people that supply these materials, and they give you genuine receipt. Legally, this receipt is legal. They bought it for $100,000. Even if you know that the individual is corrupt, what are you going to do? You take them to court and they produce a document, and that document, there is no way you can counter this document.
Those kind of loopholes are things that encouraged corruption because it deters the government from investigating. All you need to do is exactly what is the international local market price for this commodity. Even if the receipt says $100 and everybody knows this costing $10, that's corruption. I am not saying it's not corruption.
These
are the ways you prove corruption.
And the other trouble we have, the biggest problem we have in this country. Let's talk about corruption. Let me take you one.
Syria and others say. Now I see what I said. I see National Assembly members being given 53 pickups. They did not account for where it came from. All right?
Yes.
It just came from the blue. It said it's an anonymous donor. I saw NPP with 50 pickups and 3 vans.
23 or 50?
23. Barrow did not take,
say 50.
No, listen. Barrow did not take that from government coffers. At least he would not agree that he did that. Where did it come from?
So
I'm asking, where did it come from?
I'm coming.
So
by law.
Yes.
Political parties are not under any obligation to tell the public where they get the money from. If you want them to do, go to the National Assembly and enact the laws. Any political party, no political party is under any obligation. As a political party, they receive the donations, any Gambian can donate. But I just want us to go back to this corruption issue.
Yeah.
Gambians, every Gambian shouts about corruption. And I've been talking about this. Yeah. Your brother works at Ministry of Finance. His salary is $20,000.
Yeah.
But with that salary, you saw your brother building 2 houses. He bought a car perhaps for $1 million. And he sent his children to West African International or Marina. You've seen all that, and you know that Gambian salary cannot give this brother what he has. You've never taken the time to ask your brother, where are you getting this money from? Nobody will ever ask. But then in fact, they don't only stop at that. Everybody's relative in this country is a saint. Everybody's brother in this country is a messenger and a prophet. The only people that are corrupt are the other. the other person. We are all related
Maybe
in this
the
country.
ministers,
Tell me one individual, in fact, investigative journalist, he must have a cousin or someone else that is in government that perhaps is compromised. But nobody, they will never talk about that. So we cannot fight against corruption.
We cannot fight against corruption. Basically, we are helping. But as a government, we can fight it
way
from
of putting our problems.
Finally.
You see, I think what we need to do.
I want to talk about MPP Congress now, so please.
Sure.
Please.
Because corruption is it's true that we have a cultural problem.
Exactly.
I've gotten to people who said, I want to give you this because you're doing that.
Yeah. Oh, I heard you are investigating this. Can you come and see me? How many such invitations have been turned down?
Now, you know that, when you meet a police officer on the street and you're impressed with what he does, which is what his job is, you feel compelled to give him money.
Yeah.
Corruption, it's part of our culture, right? Now, giving gifts is also kind of part of our culture, but it needs to be fought. And the primary responsibility to fight it is on the president. It's just not on the political party. I agree. Even UDP and all the other political parties, you see them with a lot of vehicles. I mean, I passed by Darboe's office and you see a lot of UDP branded vehicles. You could ask, where did they get them?
Yes. Where?
Clearly, it's from someone or from some source.
Yes.
Now, but
somebody
the thing
with ulterior motive.
of course, we would have to
That's
agree
always
on.
the case.
We will have to agree on making public the issue of campaign financing.
Exactly.
It's a huge corruption bait.
Yes.
Now, but the president is different from any other human being. The president holds the primary responsibility of keeping the republic intact and safeguarding and protecting the republic.
And making the
Yes,
wrongs
that's
right.
where you have the issue. So
Now,
it's
the
too
president's National People's Party, Mama Mas, other Kitty said National Puntum Pantam Party, whatever they call it, will be launching, will be having a launching and a congress.
Yes.
On the 38th
Yes.
January.
And 31st, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I really would like them to do is to appoint a full-fledged spokesperson. Because I see that there are about 17 political parties, all of them opposed to the NPP and the government. And they will jump at every media opportunity, press releases or press conferences, to have their say. If the media, suppress it, they will go and say, this media is not fair with us, or they are supporting Barrow, or they are supporting Darboe. There is nobody in the NPP side, just like people like Ja in the NPPs, who will be following, countering, on the spot, and real time, dealing with these issues in the media. So what happened is that because of that lack, that absence, there will be an imbalance in the reportage, politics in the media, and the Barrow government, as he himself has started, blaming the media for that. So I would first like to have them a spokesman. But tell us what's going to happen from now on again.
Well, like the law requires.
Who's going to be the Secretary General? Let me ask a dumb question. Let me ask a dumb question. Who's going to be the Secretary General? Ahmad Gitteh.
I would love, and I will vote for President Barrow as our Secretary General and party leader.
But somebody else will contest against him.
Well, if anybody wants, yes.
Maybe
that's the law.
Who do you think will be the brightest candidate against him?
We have
We have a lot of
people. We have Bakari Baji, we have Ibrahim Silla, we have Ahmad Gitteh, we have many others. In fact, yes, you please come. In fact,
you will apply.
You were talking about 3 days to help. We will get you on our side and one of the advisors. But yeah,
there will be an executive, a full-fledged executive will be elected.
Yes. Okay. Into office.
Okay.
And as you've said, some of those positions that you're talking about will officially be filled, and we'll start running after you. You know, all that we have missed, we will come for you, and you will keep giving us to catch up with them. So it's going to be a grand program
at the stadium.
Yes, it's going to be at the stadium. And
why do you choose the stadium? Many people said, well, your people said because there will be a lot of people.
Yes.
But then people said it makes it easy for you to come on. Say tomorrow, I said, we filled the stadium. The GDC could not. The UDP could not. Though it did not try.
So politics is hand in hand with propaganda.
Yes.
And in democracy, it's majority carrying the vote.
Okay.
So if anybody tries to deviate from that principle,
but you may have a lot of people and it still don't translate to votes.
Well, in our case, it's going to be different.
Jammeh would have won. Jammeh claimed his crowd was bigger than Barrow's.
That was misunderstood. Jammeh didn't see the crowd of.
He didn't see Barrow's crowd.
No, if you compare and contrast the two.
No, you know what happened. You know what happened. So Jammeh was blinded. I watched the campaign. You know, I tell you, my friends, when Barrow came to Sukuta, I didn't go there, but I know this. I've been going to Sukuta football match. I know the circumference. I know the capacity of the stadium there in Sukuta.
Yes.
And Barrow came there. He could not step out from the car because of the crowd. In fact, it later became unsafe for people to move about. I told my friend who was in Sukuta, look, if that guy can come to that stadium and there was no space, then there is no way that this guy cannot win. He said, no, wait until Jammeh came. Jammeh came 2 days before the elections. And when he saw the crowd, he said, well, look, boy, the president crowd is bigger. He did not, I said, look, I counted human beings, and I know that capacity. Barrow really had more crowd there than.
So you see, in that case, crowd translated into vote.
Yes, that is true.
It does,
so
but
that's
it's one of the key factors we gauge political participation of people. I mean,
and when he was returning from the campaign in November 27th, that's a few days before the elections, at the airport Johnson, I was there, and I saw the human beings. I said, I don't know where will Jammeh get voters that will outdo this.
And
but
I'm sure
sometimes,
you've also seen
sometimes it doesn't happen like that.
Meet the people store.
It was a coalition of
this meet the people store equally. You have seen the number.
Oh, I have had people said you hired crowds to go to.
That's what they always say.
Well,
we hired crowds.
But
then our Congress
so yes,
Congress, you know, we like other parties would do it, and as the Constitution sanctions, we are going to do our Congress, get our people, and get set for the battle in December of this year. And we will, of course, the Congress is going to be at a different place. That is the official election.
Okay.
Stadium
is for
post-Congress launching. We'll officially launch, and we'll have a grand meeting. And of course, we're expecting a lot of people at the stadium. So we invite everybody, including
everybody's invited.
Yes.
All right, so that will be on January the 30th at the Independence Stadium. So that's the grand launching of the National People's Party, to be followed by Congress. So we wish you very good luck. Mr. Jha will not wish you good luck politically.
He's
really?
Oh yeah.
But if they win, you lose. So why you wish them well? You can wish them.
Well, there is no
you can wish them well.
Not supposed to be a lose in national election.
Of course.
It's not supposed to be.
The road to State House.
He is part of people financing the president.
They know we are talking about party, not the president.
Well, there is not supposed to be
if the NPP wins, APRC will lose. So he shouldn't wish them well politically.
Of course, I would. I don't.
If you put it like a football,
you know, in a sort of you in this court, I am in this court.
Yes. After all, it's the national
It
interest.
is bigger than that.
That's right.
I want to see a better Gambia for me, my family, my neighbors. Even the foreigners in this country will all benefit.
No, foreigners should not. No, foreigners should not be involved.
Finally,
I'm not saying them getting
involved.
They will benefit.
In conclusion, let no one, think that all that the coalition, was set to achieve in this country was achieved. We have challenges as a government and as a people, like any other country in the world. Human beings are ever evolving, and in as much as we have registered successes that I mentioned, we equally have a lot of challenges that we need.
You don't call it failures, but challenges.
Yeah, of course, they are challenges. They are not failures.
Okay.
They are challenges, and rest assured that our ministers, our National Assembly members, and our members of judiciary, because people tend to misunderstand government sometimes. You have these three branches that make a government. So National Assembly is doing a lot of good work. The judiciary is delivering justice without any bias. And we have the executive. So they are moving the country. It's tough. It's a tough thing. But then I would like to thank all the Gambians. Of course, my brother, he's one of my admirers. Your interview with Frederick Tendeng wasted a lot of my time. I could not go away. I had to sit the whole time to watch him.
To watch Frederick.
He had an interview.
They are both problematic,
on
the
Chronicle.
Both of them are problematic, isn't it?
Not that per se. We will all have things that we do not agree on.
Yeah, I know.
But what he is doing is in the interest of the country. We have disagreements, but he's doing an amazing job. Exactly. And that is what we do.
That's how a country is.
What is the
Ghanaian man? What's his name again?
The only thing is he's not
he does not mask himself.
Yes. Anas mask himself.
So you better match yourself.
No, I don't have to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mustapha Darboe, journalist Malagan, Dodou, deputy spokesman for APRC, and Ahmad Gitteh, first time on Kerr Fatou Live. I hope we'll have more of you before you leave, that is, and maybe by Zoom perhaps when some other issue comes. So on behalf of all of them, Lamin Cham wishing you have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamtel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamtel, Yaibaram.
For all your pastry, bakery and quality food, CK Restaurant is the only place to be. We do catering for birthdays, weddings and all related services. We have all kinds of local foods, American, European and even beyond. Come and have a taste of our local juice, ebe and other services. At CK Restaurant, customer satisfaction is our priority.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.